We are live here. Good afternoon, I'm Liz Stelmack, Chair of the City of Albany. Call the Thursday, November 21st meeting to order. Note that we have a quorum with Joseph Better, Christopher Betts, and Lee acting in attendance. First item on the agenda would to ask for a motion to read the reading of the minutes and accept as presented.
The move.
Any questions, comments, edits? Okay, sorry, second.
Second.
All in favor? Make sure everyone gets involved on that one. Next is the report from the Chief Financial Officer. Andy.
Thank you, Chair. For your consideration of the brief financial summary for the period ending October 31st, we are talking 145% of revenue budget. From financial performance. Reflective of the projects and for instance here, we are 91% expense to budget. So while we've maintained a robust calendar for projects, we have done our best to contain the costs. Current assets, approximately $4 million, 90% of which are held in cash and short-term investment.
Thank you. Any questions for Andy? All right, thank you. Now on to unfinished business, we have Equity Residential Development LLC. Andy?
Thank you. This project is the new construction, an approximate $29 million investment into a building that will house 57 affordable housing units, and an additional 10 units that would be utilized by Capra Theater to house their actors that are coming in and out of town for shows. There will be an additional approximately 1,500 square foot commercial space on the ground floor that is intended to serve as a gallery space. This project has been discussed at multiple board and committee meetings previously. Public hearing was held prior to the last finance committee meeting, during which no public comments were received either beforehand or during that hearing. We also have the applicant here with us today. There is one small administrative change that we did want to bring up. And David, please jump in here if I'm inaccurately describing it. The address, the physical address of this property will be changing from 67 Livingston Avenue to 794 Broadway. The actual location of the project remains the same, but this is due to parcel merges.
Yes, exactly. And there will be, I believe, an AKA 67 Livingston Avenue, because there will be an entrance from 67 Livingston as well.
Okay, great. So we will go about updating your closing documents with that. The documents to date have been accurate until this change goes through. So just wanted to note that.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions or further discussion? All right. Thank you. May then I get a motion on the resolution concurring in the determination by the City of Albany Planning Board as lead agency for the environmental review of the Equity Residential Development LLC Clinton Square Studios LLC proposed project. May I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next. Resolution, hold on, may I get a motion on the resolution authorizing a deviation from the agency's uniform tax exemption policy in connection with the proposed payment in lieu of tax agreement to be entered into by the agency in connection with the proposed Equity Residential Development LLC, Clinton Square Studios LLC project.
So move.
May I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, not stopping for you yet. Nope. Okay. Next, may I get a motion on a resolution determining that the proposed determining that the proposed Equity Residential Development LLC project is a commercial project, and B, making certain findings required under the general municipal law.
So move.
May I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I like how you went around the horn there.
Yeah, I just wanted to note for the record before we go ahead with the approving resolution, that as we do with all projects requesting real property tax abatement here at the City of Albany IDA, an extensive cost benefit analysis was performed on this project in conjunction, in this case, in cooperation with a third party consultant, and this analysis was reviewed with the board previously. So just wanted to note that.
Okay, noted. Thank you. So may I get a motion on the resolution authorizing execution of documents in connection with a lease leaseback transaction for a project for Equity Residential Development LLC, Clinton Square Studios LLC.
So moved.
May I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, next item on the agenda is Blair Associates LP. Yeah, oh, sorry, my bad. First, next item under new business is Holland Ave Ozzy. You're gonna
Thank
need
you.
to skip you.
Uh,
Sorry, my bad.
I'm gonna briefly introduce it and toss it over to Olivia. This was a project that, was a new construction project that was built, at the intersection of Hackett and Holland Avenue. Came online recently, a ribbon cutting was held, back in the spring. It was, we do have, representatives of the, project beneficiaries here with us today, Michelle Kennedy, Bill Hoblock, and Chris. I'm probably gonna,
Very well.
Julo, that can answer questions, but first Olivia is, gonna go through a memo that outlines the local labor reporting that was completed on.
Thanks, Andy. This memo is in your packet. It was just a little small, which is why Maria is passing it around to you. So as Andy alluded to, this project was approved for sales, mortgage recording, and real property tax exemptions in 2021. As part of its scoring under the framework, it agreed to achieve 3 community commitments. These were utilization of 90% or greater regional labor, 15% or greater city of Albany labor, and 20% or greater of awarded contracts to state or federally certified MWB entities. Staff did receive post-construction reporting from this project in August. During our review, we identified that the project came in under target for the city of Albany labor and MWBE utilization commitments. So based on the final total of construction jobs, which is 279, they achieved 6.5% city labor, and based on the total construction cost, which was just over 12.2 million, 15.5% of contracts were performed by MWB entities. Staff has been working closely with the team from Richville Capital and Holland Ave during this process. We received a formal response in September outlining the reasons for the failure to meet those targets.
That's also attached.
Yeah,
Sorry to-
it's also in that.
That's also part of your materials packet.
Yeah, so there should be a letter that Maria just handed out. The project team cited unexpected inflation in the amount of construction workers needed and also in the total cost needed. Based on their original estimates, the project would have met both of these commitments at 15.7% local labor and 20.5% MWBE contracts. Staff is recommending to the board at this time that the board refrains from pursuing the available remedies for event of default. We have our reasoning outlined in that memo, but I'll just briefly walk through it. This project was an over $18 million investment in 60 residential units in the University Heights neighborhood. And as Andy alluded to, it was completed in May. It created 279 construction jobs, and I believe it's anticipated to create 2 full-time jobs. And that was more than double the amount of the originally anticipated construction jobs. This project also awarded over 1.9 million in construction contracts to MWB entities. And lastly, the project representatives who are here with us today have shown cooperation and transparency throughout this whole process. And this project is compliant with the agency in every other aspect. So we do have project representatives, so I'll open the floor to you if you have any comments and if the board has any questions.
I think Michelle Kennedy with White Master and Hannah on behalf of the company. I think that it's probably most important to highlight for the agency the comparative analysis between those numbers. So at the time of application in July of 2021, the overall project cost was projected to be approximately 12 million. And the ultimate project cost by the close of the project was 18 million. Again, as Olivia pointed out with the construction jobs, we anticipated 115 construction jobs, and in fact, the actual number by the end of construction was 279. With respect to all of the original estimates, all of the community commitments were met. And had we known that the project cost would so far exceed what it had, as well as the number of construction workers on the city's framework, there would have been 2 additional boxes that we could have received credit for. So we asked the board, just ancillary to this analysis, to just take that into account in your own analysis. We appreciate you hearing us today and the opportunity to work with the staff. They have been helpful in terms of their guidance, and we very much appreciate your service to the community.
Did you meet the raw numbers from the original estimates?
Yes, with respect to every one of the community commitments.
Okay. Just the percentages that are diminished because of the increase in jobs and increase in.
That they should correspond. The percentages, we met the percentages as well as those raw numbers when you look at it with respect to our original.
Right.
What was
Right.
represented in the application as the actual.
But the final number is the percentage is reduced because of the increased number of.
Correct, because the cost was so much greater than originally anticipated, and the number of construction workers ended up being, over double what we had originally anticipated. And there's, of course, a lot of moving pieces. The construction VP is here, he dealt with the day-to-day difficulty of moving crews and, trying to maintain all these moving parts during the course of the project, which ended up being over 3 years, so.
Thank you.
Just to hop in on Bill Hopler, thanks for everybody's time today. The reason for the increase in costs were basically, I think we all know, interest rates virtually doubled during construction, so that was unforeseeable. And then we still have the lingering increase in construction materials and labor costs. Really, the COVID hangover, which is still around, we all know the inflation, the factor that plays into that. So, and also improvements in the projects. There's some things that we made better than, or I should say, nicer than anticipated. So kind of when you layer those unforeseeable inflationary escalations as well as the skyrocketing interest rates, that's really what caused us to go from the 12 million to the 18 million. But I think that the ribbon cutting that Andy mentioned went great. The project, just so everyone knows, is 60 units. We only have 7 units that are unoccupied, and we've only been open for 7 months. So the project is successful, and we look forward to number 2.
Question, how many, of the 1.9 million in contracts, how many total contracts were awarded? Out of that 1.9 million, did I miss that?
With our submission, we have. And in our letter,
Sorry if I missed that.
that's what it looks like. It looks like there were 10 state certified MWBEs.
Yeah.
But in addition to those, there were others who were pending state certified status, as well as one, there was some confusion, they were certified in New York City, but not at the state level, and so they couldn't technically be counted. So when those, the percentages varied greatly when you took into account state certified, pending state certification, as well as the, as I said, the one that was a local certification, but not state certification. So that 6.5% figure, which was the lowest, or I'm sorry, that was the city of Albany. The MWBE figure was, was impacted as a result of, again, those pending certifications.
Yeah, and what I can tell you is, when you go through the project and you're trying to sign people up, there were multiple subcontractors that came to me and said, we're in the process of becoming, an MWBE. So you sign them up and ultimately a couple of them had to resubmit, a couple of them were still waiting. So it's not a perfect, process. So you try to help them out and in turn, at the end, they don't have it yet, but still they are an MWBE. They're not technically certified, but, ultimately we did the best we could do.
Okay, and were there, out of the MW, what was the breakdown between M and W? Do you have any idea? I'm sorry,
No, that's okay.
He's got
That's
it.
what we-
I can get you that information exactly, but,
So we did have, and we sent in our correspondence to the agency, 37.97% were minority and women-owned operations based upon the originally estimated construction costs. Of this percentage, 20.47% could be verified as New York State certified. That was the original. And then.
yeah, it's not breaking down between M and W. But you could say that 37%, that was, if you took our original total, 37% of that original total were MWBEs, not all of them were certified, but 37% of the original total were MWBEs, which is a great number.
You want that breakdown? We can send it to you just for informational purposes after the meeting, if that helps.
thank you.
One thing I did want to point out is, unfortunately, this is somewhat typical of what we've seen with projects that came online right around this time where it's just these unperceived cost increases really threw things out of whack from where we thought things were gonna land at application process and where they landed in actuality. As Olivia said, though, they have been incredibly transparent with the data, proactive with communication to staff about where this looked like it was heading, to give us time to really examine this and dedicate the time to do that as staff. Harkening back to earlier in the spring, stay in line with this theme. Bill was in here with his team with sales tax exemption overages, which were rectified. And also, this project, because it did exceed the original $12 million expected cost by $6 million, an additional fee of approximately $62,000 was sent by the agency after the submission of project cost affidavit, which has since been received by the agency. So they have gone about things by the book for our policy manual as well.
Thank you.
I did want Chris, just to make sure everyone is clear about what we're looking for here, to talk about what staff's recommendation is clear that no action is taken. However, there is action that could potentially be taken to do this.
So very technical under the documents under the Uniform Agency Project Agreement. The failure to meet these certain conditions, these certain ratios, triggers an event of default, and there could be recapture of certain tax exempt benefits that were provided. Also, I mean, this is the bigger one, but the idea has the ability to put the property back on the tax roll under the pilot agreement as a default, because there's a cross default through the documents.
Okay, are there any other questions for the applicant or staff?
I think so.
Okay, then, hold on a second, okay? Wrong one, hold on a second, guys. Okay, so may I get a motion on the resolution related to resolution waiving default in connection with the Holland Avenue OZ LLC project?
We'll make a motion.
May I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll make a note that
Thank you.
we'll follow up with the requested data.
We'll get it to you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time, Steph, and I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate the cooperation of the board and staff in making this project successful.
Thank you.
Thanks. I was all messed up there. All right, next item is Blair Associates. LP.
Sure. I'll provide an interview somewhere,
Yeah.
Chris, you can probably fill in the gaps.
Thank you.
The organization originally reached out to staff earlier this year in January with a request for temporary forbearance. They were an outstanding mortgage loan. The original request was deferral to June of 2025. Subsequent to some staffing changes in the organization, it was difficult to engage with them consistently throughout the year, but we did reconnect with the new leadership team. They restated the request, looking for an extension through September 2025. Basically a hold on any collection or payment activity in the interim. We had requested them to attend this meeting to provide some additional detail on the nature and extent of the request. They were available. They did express interest in mentioned attending the December meeting. Should be continue with some further detail. Chris, I know, has engaged them separately on 2 different occasions.
Yes, I'm playing phone tag with Kim Smith, who is the fiscal director of Catholic Charities Housing. The only disconnect I have in this is the original mortgage loan was between the agency and James Housing Development Fund Company. And the request that came in to forbear on the loan payment is from Catholic Charities as property manager for Blair Associates LP. I can't connect the dots between Blair Associates LP and the original James Housing Fund Development, who received a loan from the IDA. My guess is that's just a successor entity that took on the role of James Housing Development Fund. I think that was what I was trying to contact Ms. Smith on. So, but that's all I can add on it.
And so, this is obviously something, that the IDA could not take on at this, in terms of like the loan at this point, based on the current regulations on the books.
Right.
But the current request is based on the approval that was made, you know.
1992
Yes,
to be exact.
sorry, so predates all this.
It's just $22,476 is what they're asking.
Correct. It does involve the property on the corner of, Maiden Lane adjacent to, 48 Broadway.
Oh, yeah.
That
Yeah.
property right there,
Yeah.
I believe that's some sort of, supported housing.
Okay, there's something screwed with that property too, with the property map or something, I think, but. Should we take action today or should we table it for a month pending?
Completely your discretion.
Yeah.
We were hopeful that we could get a representative in here, physically with us. So if that's something that would give the board more answers and more comfort, we could certainly table this to maybe next month or their next available time to come in here to.
Yeah,
us.
and square away the ownership questions.
I agree.
Yeah, okay.
That's a good idea.
So any motions for them?
I don't think we usually do that. I'm not taking any action at this point.
Let the minutes reflect,
Right.
no action is taken.
Yeah.
Next is Colvin Avenue Commons, LLC.
Thank you, Chair. Chris, please fill in any blanks.
Sure.
This is an administrative action involving, Colvin Avenue Commons, who just came through and was approved. That is the 63 unit affordable housing project on Colvin Avenue with also, the intent to have a, first floor retail commercial space be used to house a daycare. They are in the process of construction. They have requested that, an additional agent be added, an agent status to the sales tax exemption certificate. So they're not asking for an extension of said certificate, and they're not asking for an increase in the dollar value of the sales tax exemption certificate, but just adding an additional party in the battle.
Yeah, that's a good summary. Also, so Mark's contacted us, they're the main contractor. And they usually tell us beforehand whether or not there's gonna be a contractor involved, and we have separate documents they can enter into. So we'll enter into those with the IDA and Mark's, no issues, we don't need another approval for that. But they also want to have sub-agents appointed. And typically, when we have sub-agents appointed, we have that provision, we have provisions on that in the lease agreement itself. The gist there is we don't want, as the IDA, to have to keep track of that sub-agents complying with the sales tax benefits and all the rules. So the company and the sub-agent enter into an identification agreement between them, sorry, a sub-agency agreement between them. Keeps the IDA out of it. They provide the information we need. We give them the ST60, but the IDA shouldn't be involved in it. So this resolution approves modifying the lease agreement to include that sub-agent concept. Happy to answer your question.
Are there questions? All right, may I get a motion to approve resolution authorizing the execution by City of Albany Industrial Development Agency a certain amendment in connection with the Colvin Avenue Commons LLC project?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Item under new business is the approval of the accounting firm for 2024. Sure. For
Thank you, Chair. Following the procurement process that's been filed with the agency policy, staff recommended Bonadeo to audit committee on the 14th of November. The partner and the manager came in and presented what they expected to be a clean, thorough, and expeditious audit. And looking for an approval and execution of the engagement letter to conduct the current audit.
And a positive recommendation came out of them.
Yes, sorry.
I watched it, it was a great meeting. May I get a motion, oh, well, any questions, sorry.
No, they have a long history in government and nonprofit work, so.
May I get a motion to approve resolution approving the retaining of an accounting firm for conducting the 2024 fiscal year audit of the City of Albany Industrial Development?
No moved.
May I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, other business, agency updates.
Very quick, staff did conduct a site visit to 1211 Western Ave earlier this week. I'll start with the positive. They do have a full-time construction manager on site now. They are in the final stages of completing an agreement with a GC The sidewalk, the temporary sidewalk is fully open. We will have pictures for that coming up. They verbally verified to us that the paving of the road would take place this week. I'm sure the weather today didn't help. As of yesterday, we don't believe it was completed, but we will keep our eye on that on a daily basis and report back to this body once that has been done. But they did intimate that it would be completed soon, as in prior to winter. So that was good. The interior is a little bit of a different story. There had been no significant progress on floors, really 1 through 4 for the most part, since July. However, the 5th floor, there was significant progress on, and they anticipate getting the GC involved in working through the winter. Lastly, we did not receive an additional request to extend the sales tax exemption certificate. So we'll be starting a dialogue, with them just about next steps, whether that is an additional request or, whether that has sunset. Any, requests from the project beneficiary will be brought back to this body for, discussion and deliberation.
Are all the windows in now or not?
Almost all, some on the backside that's not facing Western Avenue were covered, but not with the actual permanent window that will be in place.
My eyes tell me there's incremental progress every time I drive by, so.
Yes, the footpath was much needed from a safety issue.
Yeah.
And that will remain open during construction going forward. If it has to be closed, it would be temporary only to bring large equipment in and out.
I'm driving back and forth to work that way. So there's been the signs, it looks like paving production start. Okay, any questions?
No.
Compliance update.
The only update I have there, is that we are planning for our governance committee meeting, on December 5th. So provided we can get full quorum, we will have that meeting. Keep it on your calendars.
And last is, can I get a motion to go into an executive session to discuss pending litigation?
The move.
Can I get a second?
Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
For back at the. Yeah, it's like, I'm on. The high bar. Okay. We are back out of executive section, no, action was taken. There are no other items on the agenda, are there any other questions or items to discuss?
Motion to adjourn.
May I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.